Hello, this is Tim Mitchell with the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast. I want to welcome you to our new episode. Dana wasn't able to make it today, and I have my friend and guest co-host, Melody Savley. Welcome, Melody.
Thank you.
She's from Alps Pharmacy in Springfield, Missouri, and she's gonna help me get through this thing here. And I just want to remind everybody that the opinions and comments that we have from the hosts and the guests are our own and not necessarily those of MPA. You can find this podcast on your favorite podcast host site, Spotify, YouTube. I don't even know all of them. Apple Podcasts. We do link it on our Facebook, and we encourage everybody to like and share these posts. And our goal is to get out there and meet individuals in the pharmacy market, especially focusing in Missouri. Today we have a good friend of ours, Chris Geronsin. He's the owner of Beverly Hills and Gateway Pharmacies in St. Louis, Missouri. He's also the team pharmacist for not only the St. Louis Cardinals, but the St. Louis Blues and the St. Louis Battlehawks. And he didn't bring any jewelry today, but I think he's got jewelry from almost every single one of those places, don't you? Did the Battlehawks win?
They've not given me any jewelry yet. They have not had a chance to get any yet.
We're going to have to work on that one. So,
yeah.
Welcome, Chris. If you want to kind of give us a little introduction about your practice and what happens at your pharmacies, as well as kind of a little bit about the team pharmacist thing, and then we'll kind of dig into the details. So,
well, I mean, like most independent pharmacists, we started small. It was a little store doing 40 prescriptions a day, and we've grown with community. It's a mom and pop store. You don't see many of those around, except for the two hosts we have here, who have some very nice mom and pop stores. I'm kind of proud of that. It's a family pharmacy. We started out basically just as your neighborhood pharmacy and kind of expanded. Really kind of took off during the HIV epidemic, when I was always interested in infectious disease and saw this as an opportunity to expand my horizons as well as help the community. And plus, there weren't at that time, there weren't many pharmacies that actually wanted to be involved in that particular arena. But the HIV has led us into a lot of interesting. You open one door and three more doors open, or at least are in front of you. We've at one time, probably we're one of the largest HIV providers in the state. We've, with a lot of competition come in and other things, we're still very large. But here recently, we got into psychiatry and tied that to compliance of just not only HIV drugs, but all the other drugs that are out there, whether it's diabetes or whatever. And we've really work to try and get the psychiatric issue settled so that the patient can follow through on other things. We do about 300 deliveries a day between our two stores. We cover basically the whole.
That's a lot.
Chris does all those himself.
Yeah.
That much spare time.
We have drones delivering drones,
Yeah. We cover the whole St. Louis County and city area, and wow. Here recently, we talk about pharmacy deserts. I've noticed that with some of the big box stores closing inside of the city limits, that there's a lot of need for patients to be taken care of, and I'm looking forward to how we can reach those patients and how we can be a better community partner in the future. But I don't see myself as unique, because it's just what pharmacists do. I don't know. I don't want to rattle on too long, but I'm very proud of what we have, and again, the success that you see is not me; it's the people that come in, the family people that come in every day.
Right.
Well, how did you get into that, being the team pharmacist? I think that's very intriguing to a lot of our listeners because it's highly unusual.
Absolutely.
Well, it goes way back to in 1965. The Arizona Cardinals, who were the Chicago Cardinals, moved to St. Louis, and my ex-boss at the time, he ended up getting the account, and in 1975, a prescription was filled for one of the Cardinal uh, uh, coaches for his wife, and it was filled incorrectly, not by us, not by Dominic, but by another pharmacy, who decided that he didn't want to refund the $2 to the Cardinals for the error in prescription, and so the Cardinals changed over. They called the football Cardinals and said, "Who do you use?" They said they use Beverly Hills Pharmacy, and so the Cardinals switched over in 1975 to Beverly Hills Pharmacy, which was 2 years before I started, and they've been here ever since. And everybody always said, "Well, do you have a contract?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't have a contract." So for 30 something years, I didn't have a contract. And I guess maybe about 10 years ago or 8 years ago, I was down in the locker room and they said, "Where's your badge?" I said, "Well, I don't have one." I said, "Well, Major League Baseball says you have to have a badge to be in the locker room." So I went up, and every year now I'm a free agent. And John Mozeliak has signed me up as a free agent. I'm his easiest sign every year. And so that's how that started.
So the St. Louis Cardinals football team moved to Arizona.
Yes.
Is that when you took over the baseball team, or did you do that?
No, we were doing the baseball team since 75. And then when I started here in 77, I, of course, helped Dominic, but I bought the pharmacy in 87. And then the Cardinals kind of came along with the buying of the pharmacy. And so that's how. And then we had, of course, had the Rams when they came, because we had referrals from basically the doctors and the trainers will say, "Hey, you got to use Chris." So like the Blues came when a big box store bought a independent pharmacy who had the Blues for 20 years. And after a month with the big box store, the Ray Borelli, who's the current trainer and was the trainer of the Blues at the time, called up Barry Weinberg, who was the trainer of the Cardinals, and said, "Barry, who do you use?" He said, "I use Chris." So I get a call, and they says, "We're the St. Louis Blues. Can you be our pharmacist?" And I said, "Well, yeah, sure." So that's how that came
work,
about.
Chris? Do you go to all the games, or do they call you when you need some, or do you have compounds that they prefer? What do you do?
I go when I'm needed. Again, we do make some specific compounds, and we have some of the Blues really like. Basically, we had a player that had a fractured ribs, and they wanted to kill the pain in his ribs, but not to kill the shot in his arm. And so we kind of experimented around with some things and found out the concentration of compounds that made it work.
Like it might be a super secret compound, right?
Oh yeah. You have to be real careful, because certain things are like they've asked for certain compounds, and I think, well, no, we can't put this in there because the league doesn't allow it. So we have to be careful on what we do. Now, I'm sorry, Tim, you got a question?
No, I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah.
So as far as going to the games, like this morning, I had a call, and the Blues, all of the rookies and everybody's there today, and so they needed some issues. For some players had some issues, and they needed me out there, and so I took it out. Now we do the vaccines for them also, and so we do all of that. As far as being at the games, many times the Blues are pretty set. I mean, occasionally they'll call me. I had a player that came in from Boston who had he got injured in Vegas, and he had a broken ankle, and so the doc called me and said, "Hey, can you take care of this guy?" So I went down to take care of the guy before the game from Boston. So the visiting teams we take care of also. So, but usually the Cardinals. Last night when I was there, I actually was at the game, and I didn't want to go into the locker room, so I just gave it to one of the security people to take down, because we were in a luxury box, and I wanted to enjoy a luxury box.
So Melody and I are really wanting to know, how do we get tickets? I mean, do you have that connection? Yeah. We know we can go purchase tickets, but we want those luxury box tickets. Where I know Taylor Swift doesn't come to the Cardinals games, but I'm sure there's people like Chris Geronsin at these. Like we'd like to rub shoulders with you. So
Yeah.
I think you're more important. You're making me more important than I am. But
yeah.
the luxury box was actually a Cardinal charity thing that I bid on. So they invite me. Actually, I was with the thing with Ozzy a week ago that they had a
Cool.
fundraiser and they invited me. And the luxury box was free, but you went to the auction, and of course I got a lot of stuff that's signed, so I just donate it to the organization. But
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
yeah. But anyway, yeah, they do the tickets. I can't arrange certain things for certain times, but it's the generosity of the Cardinals for favors I've done for them and favors they do for me. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, that's then that's what community pharmacies do, and you
Yeah.
find ways to help your community. It just so happens you've got major league teams in your back door there, and they see the value of what you add, and I appreciate what you do. I know Melody and I hear stories whenever we talk to you, whenever we have opportunities to meet with you and stuff. So it's awesome to hear the great community support that you have, as well as the support you provide for your community. So moving into other areas of what you do, you talked about HIV, the psychiatry part. What kind of things are going on now in your pharmacy, like forefront type things that maybe not all community pharmacies are seeing, or maybe it's just something new? I know you've been involved with Barnes Jewish Hospital and some of the things there. Tell me a little bit about what you may be involved in, if you can talk about some of those things.
Currently, one of the things we've really got involved with psychiatry with the clinics, and there's a lockdown clinic that BJC has where if a patient comes in with psychiatric problem because if he was arrested or for whatever reason, I mean, there's one of four places the patient will go. He'll either go home if they can resolve it at the hospital. He'll go get arrested if it was something serious. He'll be entered in the hospital, or he'll go to the lockdown clinic, which has about 50 beds. Now, they're usually there from 4 to 5 days, and then they're discharged with a psychiatrist. And we do all the discharge meds, and a lot of it is the injectable, long-acting injectable psychiatric meds. So that's the first time. The key to following in psychiatry is what happens 30 days after that. And if the patient for any reason misses a psychiatric appointment but needs a shot, the doctors will call us, and we have a nurse that does a little over 100 to 150 injections a month, and goes to the patient's home with the doctor's order, of course, to give that injection, so that that patient is taken care of. So we have a protocol with the physician to have that done.
So Chris, what would you say that you obviously have a fabulous name in the community, and we're talking about a huge community. We're not talking about a little town. We're talking about St. Louis, Missouri, but you've developed those relationships. What would you say what helped you the most to allow you to develop these relationships, get these contracts? I mean, with Barnes Jewish or these clinics where they look to you as the expert and call you when they need these injections or want to set up something like this?
Networking, obviously, if you're talking to young pharmacists and telling them to get their name out, and when HIV first started, they would watch you did clinical trials, and they would bring people in to talk about what was going on in HIV, and so there was many evenings, of course, that you want to be home, but I went to these lectures and these dinners to meet people and understand what I was doing, and so I think, again, making it personal for me, it's kind of like with pharmacy. Someone asked me today, there were some students here, and they said, what differentiates you from the big box stores? And I said, we make it personal. So when someone comes in our pharmacy, if you remember the series Cheers, it's, hey, Norm, we know their name.
I love it.
And so when our technicians or health coaches call, it's the same person every month. And so when they say it's time for your medicine, they're almost apologetic if they didn't take it, because they feel the empathy's there. So again, there's no magic bullet. Be yourself. Everybody else is taken. And I there's some luck to it too, and being in the right place at the right
No,
time.
you've got the secret sauce. I mean, when you talk about the things you're talking about, you make those connections and you're making it personal. That's the secret sauce of community pharmacy. And I know Melody and her stores and our stores in Neosho, we're all looking for that. How can we, help that, provide that secret sauce so that we can help our community. And you've stepped up and you've got a big community there. You got a big role to fill. So it's amazing to hear the stories that you're talking about. So I appreciate that.
There are stories in our career that I'm sure, Tim, you remember, and Melody, you remember. Back in the late 80s when AZT came out, and I mean, as far as the gay community, I didn't really know a lot of people who were gay. I met, and these two gentlemen were partners, and they lived not in the city, lived in a trailer out in the middle of pretty much nowhere, had no money. And I remember going in and watching these two young men, one dying and the other one by his side. And he stood by him. It was just like, can you do this? And they'd call me at home sometimes to ask me, just looking for a ray of hope. And I was so impressed by how the love and the care that it was just amazing. It was hard to describe, but there are stories in everyone's career that they remember, and this is one. And I watched this young man die, and it was a sad day.
I'm sure it was.
I'm kind of rambling on, but it impressed me so much.
You have a passion for that shines through. And would you say also, like what I say to people, getting outside from count, lick, sticking, and pouring, you have to get out into the community.
Yeah.
You have to let them know what you're doing. Yeah. You went to those meetings, met other doctors that were doing. Yeah.
Well, we would go to Section 8 housing and we would play bingo because no one was there, and I had a friend, Ted Savage, who was with the Cardinals, and Ted was African American, and he had experienced a lot of racism in his early years in the minor leagues, and Ted would come and tell stories, and he'd tell stories about Bob Gibson and Red Shandy's, and so Ted and I would go to lunch, and then we'd go to these housing units and play bingo, and people just listen to him in awe. And then we talk about diabetes, and so you kind of get the trust of the people, and then you do things. So I mean, we did a lot of that, and I enjoyed that, just getting out in the community.
And I think that has paid off well for you, because it's a given you're doing a good job. You just need to let people know that you're doing a good job.
Well, as far as getting the teams, I mean, when the Battlehawks came to town, it was like the orthopod of the Battlehawks that you got to use Chris, and it was like, okay, So it really feels good, I've to do that. I mean, I was running out on the field with the Battlehawks during the playoffs because I'm the last guy on the field, and you actually run out in between the smoke and all the little fireworks, and so I'm getting around and. All of a sudden, I was a little winded. I was in the middle of the field, and I looked up, and I just realized that the clock was ticking down, and the national anthem was about to start, and I was the only guy in the middle of the field. So I had to get over my being winded and run over to the sideline. Yeah, get off the field. We're starting the national anthem.
So the Battlehawks they're not XFL anymore. They're
UFL.
UFL. Okay, so it's a United Football League, kind of like the NFL. So there's a lot of either ex-NFL players there, or NFL or players that maybe eventually move to the NFL or whatever. But it's just as exciting. I know that. I know I've seen some of the Battlehawks, and they've had a good team. I know they've had a good team. So
yeah, I was in the playoffs, and unless someone gets hurt, I usually walk up and down the sidelines and watch the football game, and then someone gets hurt, then we go back in the locker room or take them in the tent and decide what we're gonna do. And there's some stories I can't share, but there were interesting things that happened that you do the best you can and try and get it back out on the field.
Absolutely. So, Chris, I know you do a lot of teaching in your stores. I know there's a lot of St. Louis students and other students from other universities, as well as residents and so forth. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do?
Well, yeah, we've always had students in here, but I think what I try and do with a lot of young students is to show them the opportunities in retail and independent pharmacy because they don't see it. I mean, when you go to one of the big box stores, they don't get to see what things cost. They don't get to see what the return on investment is. They don't get to understand what clinical experience is and how that can shape the way you keep a pharmacy afloat when your dispensing fees are practically nothing or negative. So, but you know what? I want to give credit to Dr. Catherine Gilmore, who's we have a agreement with the St. Louis College of Pharmacy where she's here half the time and she's there half the time and she brings students in and she's done an amazing job on the clinical side. And I'm getting credit for it, but it's 99% her. I just don't want to minimize her contribution here and the college's contribution
Yeah,
to our
she is
store.
amazing. I think she just won she just won a faculty
Teacher,
award.
teacher of the year. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
she did.
And I've actually asked her to be on a future episode along with a few of her students as well. And I've actually asked Melody. I haven't heard back from her yet, but I bet we can talk her into it. Speaking of which, not to segue too much, but Melody is the newest Bowl of Hygiene Award. Congratulations!
Thank you so much.
Just
Thank
won
you.
that, well deserved, and proud to welcome you to the Bowl of Hygiene Club. And I'm
Very
it's
exciting.
definitely well deserved. So anyhow, Chris, I don't know, did you have any other things you wanted to mention before we kind of wind things down here? Do you have any other thoughts?
Being on Missouri Pharmacy Association was huge to me. It opened up, and when they came in to get me and say, "Do you want to sign up?" I initially, of course, they were looking for contributions, and I was like, "How do I get rid of these guys?" And I am so glad that I didn't figure that out, and I did not get rid of those guys because it has elevated my practice, my profession, and everything about me being part of that organization. So
It's made us all. It's made us all.
I can't.
Yeah.
So, word to advice of
And
everybody.
I learned a lot from you. I learned a lot. You were my mentors, so you guys ahead of me when I was president. Obviously, some of you would say I didn't learn enough because I wasn't that great a president, but I did learn a lot from you guys. So,
yeah.
Well,
but I guess the other thing is Cardinal Health, which I'm on their National Advisory Board of 10 pharmacists, and you start talking about they're asking you about $1 billion investment, and you get to they listen to you.
have some input.
Yes, I do. And when you call over there, you can call the CEO and cell phone, and they answer it. And it's like, wow,
Pretty cool.
that's
Pretty cool.
So network and get involved. So
That's right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, I think that's great. Melody, do you have any final words?
Well, I just want to let everybody know that Chris's stores are phenomenal. They're way above an average retail store, in case you
Absolutely.
hadn't gathered that from
Yeah.
what you've been listening to. He's chosen, well, he has the specialty pharmacy. I would call all your HIV and your psych a specialty pharmacy that you have, and the relationships that you formed with these hospitals and physicians that have allowed you to, and your brain's always working, what program can I come up with next? And you're trying to reach the patient's needs, and just by thinking outside the box, rather than just standing behind this counter, what else can I do? That shows very much so in your practice. And
yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. I think, Chris, you have, like I said, you found that secret sauce. You've created a model. Not everybody can duplicate your model, but they can take, notes from what you're doing and be able to apply that to their community. And I know Melody and myself have been inspired by some of the things that you've done as well. And I appreciate all that you do for our state. I know just recently I was talking to you and Melody at the convention about you guys are distributing albuterol inhalers and solution to all the school districts in the state. That's amazing. That's amazing. And
yeah,
go ahead.
That's Chris's connection.
We could do a half hour on that, on how that came about. But I was involved with AFA, and it's amazing that if a child doesn't have to go on an ambulance ride to a hospital, they can treat in that school, and that
Absolutely.
was not that didn't happen overnight. So
Yeah, well,
and,
we appreciate all you do, even all the things that we don't talk about. I know you do a lot of things behind the scenes. Melody does the same thing, and we try to do it as well. And I think it's important that community pharmacies get that recognition of what they do for their communities, wherever they're at, whether in Missouri or another state throughout the nation. Because, as you said, there's a lot of pressure being put on community pharmacies by the insurance PBMs, and we're doing so many positive things for little of nothing, maybe even losing money and taking care of these people. And this is the backbone of our communities. And I don't know if you guys saw the most recent little note that Benjamin Jolly put out. There's been like 2,400 stores close over the last couple of years, I think.
Oh, since January. Since
really?
January 1st.
It's crazy.
It's awful.
So we've got to change some things. And Chris, it's people like you that need to inspire people to be able to continue to keep their doors open, no matter how hard it is. Because I know, it's not easy for the small stores to do that. So anyhow, I'd like to kind of just round us out. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Melody, for co-hosting. Chris, you're an amazing pharmacist. You've done some amazing things, and I know there's going to be more amazing things come around down the road. We're going to close it out. Just remember to like and share these podcasts with your friends. This episode will be coming out soon, and there'll be more episodes down the road. And please continue to listen to Pharmacy Frontiers podcast. We appreciate all that you're doing. This is supported by MPA and all the people that listen. So we're going to close it out. Thank you again, guys. Appreciate all your time and look forward to seeing you again down the road.
Okay. Bye, Chris.
Thank you, Tim.
How do I get out of here?